about, do you believe Jesus is who he says he is? Do you believe Jesus is who he says he is? Now I know later, we've been talking about God, and we've been talking about creation, and we've been talking about where we come from. And I've been kind of doing that so you can realize and see that you have a foundation, that you weren't just made by some happenstance or some mistake or some blob. There was a reason why you were created and why you were made, and that was God who created. He created you. But also now we want to look at and see, do you believe that Jesus is who he says he is? And what's so very important right here in John 14, with the last verses here in chapter 6, when he talks about, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. But not only just the I am statement is so profound, because this is just one of the 7 I am statements in the gospel where Jesus talks about, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. I am the bread of life. And so there's a reason why he's saying I am. And just not only that, even in John 8 verse 58 says, verily, verily, before Abraham was, I am. So he basically wants you to know that there's none that was before me. There's none that was created me. I was always there. You don't have to be concerned. You don't have to be worried. I am who I am. And what Jesus is doing here, he's really comforting his disciples, because here in John 14, he's about to be taken by the Roman council. He's about to be taken about his way, And one thing I look at it here is so encouraging. You could say it's probably one of the sweetest or one of the best farewell speeches I've ever heard, if you really look in the Gospels. He's about to leave his disciples, and not only is he about to leave his disciples, but he's about to endure some pain and some agony. And not even the midst is he about to endure some pain and some agony. He knows what's about to happen. And even though he knows what's about to happen, his disciples who have been walking with him, they don't know what's about to happen. And so their hearts are a little troubled. And not even just that, right here when Jesus is giving the farewells and he's saying the goodbyes, just before this, Judas had scared as the one who's to betray him. So it's not even 12, it's only 11. And even a little before that in the passage, he talks about Peter. He says, Peter, you will deny me. So the disciples are here and they're seeing their hearts are a little troubled. One, why their hearts are a little troubled? Because even in the midst, when it was 12 of them, when Jesus says, the one who I give the soap to, he's going to be the one that's going to betray me. And then not only after that, he says, what thou do quickly. And Judas gets his stuff and he goes about his way. And so the disciples look at it and they don't even know that it's Judas that's who's going to betray God. They just think he's getting the coins and he's getting his stuff and he's getting his bag to go about the way. They just think Jesus is sending them on a mission. But Jesus knows already in his mind, he knows already in his heart that Judas is going to betray him. So their hearts are a little troubled because they're like, who is it? Who's going to betray God? And Peter says, no, I won't betray you, God. Even if it goes to my death, I'm going to serve you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to talk with you. And Jesus says, before the rooster crows 3 times, you're going to deny me. So their hearts are a little troubled because they're like, no, Lord, we want to walk with you. We want to talk with you. We've been walking with you for 3 years and we want to serve you. We don't want to go away from you. We don't want you to leave us. And in the verse here, he says, let not your heart be troubled. He says, let not your heart be troubled. He's not naive to the fact of the reality that he's about to leave. When someone leaves you in your life, that hurts a little bit. You can't understand why they're leaving your life. Not only that, sometimes you ask yourself, and you ask God, why did you bring them only in my life just to go out of my life? And what Jesus is trying to say is here, I'm here for a reason. I am going to leave you, but I'm only going to leave you to prepare a place for you. I'm only going to leave you for the better of you. My coming wasn't in vain. Our relationship wasn't in vain. The fellowship wasn't in vain. Let not your heart be troubled. This is what Jesus is saying to the disciples. He wants them to see. He wants them to realize. But then after that, in verse 1, when he says, let not your heart be troubled, he says, ye believe in God, also believe in me. So the first thing we can see is the remedies for your heart's aches and your heart's troubles are to believe in God.
Amen.
The first thing I want to encourage you, and we want to look at today, is see, it says, I want to encourage you to say and realize the more you believe in God and exercise your beliefs in God, you will starve your doubts and feed your spirit.
Amen.
But that's the more you believe in God. So you see here, he says, let not your heart be troubled. Even the psalmist David says, he's acquainted with all our ways. Even in the midst of our afflictions, he's right there with us in the midst of our afflictions. And when we're affected by those, he says, I know those things. Those deepest sorrows and those deepest secrets, though, you think he doesn't understand. He says, I know those things. He says, I want to be acquainted with those things. He says, I don't want you to cry alone. I don't want you to weep alone. I don't want you to walk on this earth alone. I want to be your heavenly Father. And this is what he's trying to let the disciples know. I and the Father are one. So if you believe in God, also believe in me. If you believe in the Creator, the Alpha, the Omega, him and I are one. This is what he's trying to encourage the disciples. It's just like when you have a heartbeat. He says, God is the heart, but Jesus is the heartbeat. What he's trying to say and what he's trying to tell the disciples is we function together. You can't have a heart without a heartbeat. The heartbeat, the blood has to flow through the heart. And if it flows through the heart, then what? Then they flow together. This is what he said, I and the Father are one. We function together. Because what happens when you have a heart that has no beat and has no blood to flow through it? The troubles of a heart that has no heartbeat with no blood to flow through it. The troubles are you can have a dysfunctional heart. Amen. And if you have a dysfunctional heart, what can happen then? The heart can soon not work its proper way, but in the end it probably could stop beating and ultimately it could die. So what Jesus is trying to say is here, he says, I and the Father are one. He said, if there's no God with no Jesus, there's no Jesus with no God, there's no either, no or. We are one. We're not dysfunctional. So you believing in me, saying you're not putting a risk on your life, I'm just wanting to encourage you and let you know it's ultimately, positively the way to go. This is what he wanted the disciples to know. He's trying to encourage and comfort his disciples. And you would think he would be the one needing the comforting. He would be the one needing the comforting. He would need to be the one being the consulting because he's about to go before the people and suffer the pain and suffer the agony for nothing he did, but yet he's God all alone and he knows what's going to happen. But yet he understands, even in the midst of what's going on, his disciples, their hearts are troubled. They can't understand what's going on, and he says, let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God, also believe in me. Amen. We must continue to exercise our beliefs in God, and when we do that, we starve the doubts and we feed the spirit. It's just like when you starve something, what happens? It's like the good dog and the bad dog in you. What dog is going to win? Is it the good dog? No, it's not the good dog. It's the one that you feed the most. It's the one that you feed the most. So you have to ask yourself, which one are you feeding the most? Are you feeding your belief in God, or are you feeding your belief in yourself? Are you feeding your belief in God, or are you feeding your belief in the world? And this is what he's saying. You believe in me, also believe in my Father. He's saying, believe in me. Trust in me. I understand. I'm acquainted with all your ways. Even before Abraham, I am. Amen. I know the plans that I have for your life. And not only that, but he's encouraging them this because as he's about to leave them, they're about to see some of their darkest days and their darkest times. And look in the midst of how he encourages them. You ever know someone that writes you a goodbye letter or someone that you're in a relationship with, or if they break up with you or something happened, it doesn't always seem to go easy. It doesn't always seem to go well. And if they're probably writing your letter, they're probably saying, I'm writing your letter to tell you this, and I'm probably telling you the good that we had, but then the bad that we had, but this is how it's going to all go down, and you're just not for me, or whatever it may be. But what Jesus is saying here, he's saying, that's not the situation here. You can take heed, you can take comfort in that you're mine. You're mine. And not only just that, but these are the letters that are written in red. And they say that the letters that are written in red are the words that Jesus spoke himself. So this comforts me myself, because after he says, when you believe in the Father, you believe in me, the next thing he says, in my Father's house are many mansions. If there wasn't, I would have not told you so. Or people say there's many mansions, but basically he's saying there's many dwelling places. There's many places where you can come to dwell, and you can come to fellowship, and you can come to be with me. He said there's many of them. So when I read this, I'm not just reading this. We should interpret this and see, yes, he is talking to the 11 disciples. He's letting them know, I'm leaving you because I'm going to go prepare a place for you. But at the same time, he says, in my Father's house, there's many. He said there's many. So who else is there? Who are the many? The many are the many believers and the many followers who will believe him and follow and trust after his truths and his words. He says this is what you can take comfort in. You can take comfort in and realize that this earth isn't your home. Amen. You won't always be here. See, you will have trouble in this world. But he says, be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. He's about to overcome the trouble. The biggest thing that you think you couldn't overcome, which was sin, which is death. He says, I'm about to conquer both of those things on the cross. So sin can't control you no more, and death can't control you no more. Do you believe in that? And this is what he wants his disciples to see. This is us as believers. This is what we need to see. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that Jesus is who he says he is? When he says, I am the true vine, do you believe he's the true vine? When he says, I am the bread of life, I am the ultimate fulfillment of life, I am the ultimate way how you can be fed, I am the ultimate way how you can live. Do you believe that? This is what he wants his disciples to see. Do you believe that he is who he says he is? That's the first thing we can look at. But then the second thing I want us to see here is your heart won't fully rest until it's rested in him and with him forevermore. Praise God. C.S. Lewis, he quotes it best like this. He says, I find a desire within myself that no experience in this world can satisfy. The most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. So he says, if I find it in this world, that it's nothing in this world that can satisfy me, he says, the most probable explanation is I was made for another world. Hallelujah. Church, that's why we can't be fully satisfied. That's why we won't be fully satisfied. That's why we won't fully rest till we rest in him. It's because when we fully ultimately rest in him, it's when we're resting at his head. It's when we're bowing at his feet. It's when we can rest at his shoulders and we really can call ourselves children and sons and daughters of God because we can rest with our Abba Father. This is what he wants you to see. That's why C.S. Lewis quotes and he says that. He realized that the desires and the things of this world, they're only momentary. They're only momentary. They can't fulfill and they'll never satisfy. That's why people can chase, they can pursue, they can run, and they can do all of this in vain if they're not doing it for the glory and the ways of Christ, because they'll never fully satisfy and it'll only be for a moment. But once your moment's gone, what happens next? This is what C.S. Lewis is saying. You won't fully be yourself till you make it home. There's something about home that has a place in one's life where we find our security and our comfort. This is what he said. That's why he said, let not your heart be troubled. They say, home is where the heart is. He wants you to see, I want to make your home my heart. I want in your heart to be my home. I want to rest in your heart. I want to dwell in your heart. I want to live with you. I want to walk with you. I want you to find your ultimate security in me. I want you to find your ultimate comfort in me. Don't find it in things. Don't find it in someone. Don't find it in what someone can do, what something can do, but find it in me. It's just like when you go on a vacation, you go away and you go away for a good 7 or 8 days and everything is good and you're loving the time, you're hanging with your friends or your family and you don't have a care in the world and everything is good, but in the back of your mind you're just thinking like, these hotel beds, they aren't so comfortable for so long. You know, this food isn't so comfortable for so long. I gotta get back home. There's just something about a home that just gives me this comfort and this okayness that it's well with me. Church, that's why we'll rest. That's why we're restless. And we'll continue to be restless. But that's why we continue to trust and pursue in God. Because we won't find our ultimate rest till we rest in him. Amen. Amen. It's till we find our way home. But I want to ask you today, where are you making your home at? Where are you putting your comforts at? Where are you putting your securities at? What are you putting your utmost affections and your desires for? What are you calling your home? What are you planning for? What does your daily agenda look like? Does it look like it's centered around Jesus, or does it look like it's centered around what you want and your pleasures and your desires and your fulfillment to your happiness or your joy? Or is it around what how God wants you to be happy and how the joy that He wants you to have? You won't fully be satisfied till you rest in Him. The Bible also tells us in Matthew 6:21, He says, for where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also. He says, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also. Where is your heart today, church? I want to ask you. Where is your heart at? But then the last thing I want us to look at is a very profound statement right here that he makes in verse 6. When he says, not even just that, but even before that, as he's saying, in my Father's house are many mansions, and if it weren't so, I wouldn't have told you. But if I go to prepare a place for you, I'm coming back for you. Do you believe that today, church? Do you believe that he's going to prepare a place for you? He said there's many dwelling places. But not only just that, see, people, we shouldn't want heaven just because of the place, but we should want heaven because of the person. Amen. See, it's not about the mansions and the dwelling places that you're going to have, but it's that you're going to be with Jesus, your Lord, your Creator, your Savior, your Maker. He said you can be like Thomas. You can touch the nails and see the holes in his hand. You can put your hand in his side and see, wow, this is the one. This is my ultimate Creator. This was the one that died on a cross for me. This is the one when I knew no sin, He died in my place. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to dwell with you. I get to live with you. I get to learn of you. I've tried to learn of you while I was on this earth all I could, but now I get to fully understand who you are. I get to come at your feet anytime I want and ask you any question. I get to rest in your arms when I thought I couldn't rest in your arms here on earth. This is what I get to do. This is why we long for heaven. Because Jesus is there. Jesus will be there. The one thing about hell, it's not about the fire and the torment, the ultimate separation. Yes, that's one thing, but the one thing about hell that's going to be so crazy and so terrifying is that Jesus' presence won't be there. My God. See, people say that there's hell on earth, and we're living hell on earth right now, but see, this isn't hell on earth. Because there might be some bad things that are going on. There might be some countries that are at war right now. There might be some starving children. There might be some killings and crazy crimes that we can't understand. But God's presence is still among us right now. He's still calling those to say, come to me. He's still calling those to say, I love you. I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'm a loving God. I'm a caring God. Please come to me. You need to know that I am who I am. I mean what I mean. But I love you. But also I'm a just God. And I have to deal with sin. And I've already dealt with sin over 2,000 years ago. But if you don't accept and believe that, then your ultimate sin is on you and you have to deal with that. Amen. You have to deal with that terror. You have to deal with that discipline. You have to deal with that judgment. But right here, he's comforting his disciples. He's saying, let not your hearts be troubled. Church, I want to encourage you today as whatever you're going through, I want to encourage you to let not your hearts be troubled. Praise God. Whatever it is you're going through, whatever it is you think you can't make it through, whatever it is you think that someone can't reason with you, they don't understand your pain, they don't know what you're going through. Amen. He says, I want to be right there with you. He says, let not your heart be troubled. You can rest in me. You can believe in me. You can trust in me. But the last thing I want us to see here is in verse 6 when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. My God. Jesus here is making the ultimate claim that he's being the only way to true life. Amen. He's making the ultimate claim that there's no other way to true life. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. And if you're not living by the ways of Jesus our Lord, well, the verse would say is that you're not living at all. You're not living true life, because he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life.
Amen.
But see, Jesus didn't, if you're not living by his ways, then you're just existing. But see, Jesus didn't create us, and God didn't make us to exist, but he created us to live life and live it to the fullest. And this is what he's saying: I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. He's the way. He's the way leading to all your passions. He wants to be the way to leading to all your pursuits. He wants to be the way to leading to all your affections. You say, well, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. Jesus is the way.
Amen.
Well, I don't know how it's going to get done. I don't know how it's going to happen. Jesus is the way. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Even Paul tells us in Acts 4 verse 12, he says, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. There's no other name than amongst Jesus in which we must be saved. He says, I and the Father and one. You can't get to the Father without coming through me. He says, if you go any other way, he says, you're going through the wrong door, or you're trying to sneak your way in. He says, I am the only way. There's no other way. I am the way. But not only is he the way, he also says, I am the truth. He's the truth. He's the undenying infinite wisdom of all knowledge. There's none that can surpass him. There's none that can outmatch him. There's none that can stand up to what and who he is. He is the ultimate truth. All other things around him or all other things about him, they can only try to add on or try to fix up, but they can't complete what he is. He is ultimate truth. You can't take it any other way. He's the ultimate truth. So any other knowledge and understanding works all around him.
Amen.
He is the ultimate. He is the truth. Matthew 5:17, and he says, think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but I come to fulfill it.
Amen.
As the prophets came, he said, here he comes, there one that come greater than me. He says, I didn't come to destroy those things. I just came to show you that I was the fulfillment of who they said I was. That's all I was. That's all I am. He said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. But he also says, I am the life. He's the inevitable fulfillment of who man is and where he finds his hope in. I'll say that again. He is the inevitable fulfillment of who man is and where he finds his hope in. The psalmist David tells us in Psalms 42 verse 5, he says, why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for will I yet praise him, my Savior and my God. He says, put your hope in God. Put your trust in God. Put your faith in God. He said, you've tried everything else and it fulfilled you. You've tried everything else and it won't match you. It won't match up to God. Try God. Put your hope in God. Put your faith in God. Nothing else will fulfill. Nothing else will satisfy. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. You disciples, when you're about to go on your journey and tell others about the goodness of me, and they won't believe, some will believe and some won't believe. They'll reject you and some will try to mock you, or some will even try to hurt you, or some will even try to persecute you. He says, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life.
Hallelujah.
You can take comfort in that. You can rest in that. I am who I say I am. And this is what Jesus is trying to let his disciples know here in John 14. He is who he says he is. And I ask you today, church, do you truly believe that? Do you truly believe that Jesus is who he says he is?
Amen.
And if you truly believe that, you should live in light of that. And that should stir your affections daily for how you live and why you want to live and what you live for. And I want to encourage you today, if you're not living in that, I want to encourage you to live in that. To believe that Jesus is the way. He is the truth. He is the life. He's the way to ultimate fulfillment. He's the way to you want to know the truth? He says it's in him. It's in his words. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. If you don't know what truth is, if you think it's in blogs, if you think it's in books, he says, no, it's in my word. I am the truth.
Praise God.
You have to read his word to find the truth.
Amen.
But also he says, I am the life. What are you trying to find fulfillment in? What are you hoping in? He says, I am the ultimate fulfillment. I am what you find life in. It's in me. I am who I say I am. I'm Jesus. I'm your Father. I'm your Lord. I'm your Savior. If you would bow for me. God, we come right now to saying thank you, God. Thank you for your grace and thank you for your mercy, God. God, help us to believe that you are who you say you are, God. Help us not to waver in our faith, God. I know we're so prone to go astray. We're so prone to go the other way, God. But help us trust and believe in you, God. For ultimately what we believe in is what the foundation of what life is found in. It's found in the belief of you. Help us, God, is my prayer, God. Help us to understand that you're the way, you're the truth, and you're the life, God. Help us continue just to seek your words, God, to pray honest to you, God, to tell others about you, God, to tell others about this truth, to tell others about the way, to tell others about the one who gives life, God.
Yes, Lord.
Help us put our all in that, God.
Help us right now.
Thank you for all you've done and all you continue to do.
Yes, Lord.
It's in your precious name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.